They went by a vicious whiz. May took down the plates and scraped the pie crust into a bucket. She found her damp clothes and wiped the counter with circular sweeps, and her eyes were on the highway, where life wheezed by. Al wiped his head with his apron. He looked at a paper pinned to the wall over the griddle. 3 lines as marked in columns in the paper. Al counted the longest line. He walked away from the counter to the cash register. Rang no cell, and he took out a handful of nickels. "What you doing?" May asked. "Number 3's ready to pay off," said Al. He went to the 3rd slot machine and played his nickels in. In the 5th spin of the wheel, the 3 bars came in and jackpotted dumped onto the cup. Al gathered up a big handful of coins and went back to the counter. He dropped them in the drawer and slammed the cash register. Then went back to his place and crossed out the line dots. "Number 3 gets more in playing than the others," he said. "Maybe I ought to shift him around." He lifted a lid and stirred to slowly shimmering stew. "I wonder what they're going to do in California," said May. "Who?" "Them folks that was just in." "Christ knows," said Al. "Suppose they'll get work?" "How the hell would I know?" said Al. She stared eastward along the highway. "Here comes a transport double. Wonder if they'll stop." "Hope they do." As the huge truck came heavily down the highway and parked, May seized her clothes and wiped the whole length of the counter. She took a few swipes at the gleaming coffee urns too, and turned up the bottled gas under the urns. Al brought out a handful of little turnips and stared to peel them. May's face was gay when the face opened and the 2 uniformed truck drivers entered. "Hey, sis!" "I won't be a sister to no man," said May. They laughed and May laughed. "What it would be, boy?" "Oh, a cup of Java? What kind of pie you got?" "Pineapple pie, banana pie, chocolate pie, and apple pie." "Give me an apple pie." "No, wait. What's that big, thick one?" May picked up the pie and smelled it. "Pineapple cream," she said. "Well, chop up a hunk of that. You know what? Chop up a big old hunk of that." The cars wheezed by on Route 66. Chapter 16, page 171. Jones and the Wilsons crawled westward as a union. El Reno and Bridgeport, Clinton, Elk City, and Sayron, and Tuscaloosa. These are the borders, and Oklahoma was behind. And this day the cars crawled on, and through the panhandle of Texas, Shacklock and Allen Reed, Groom and Yarnell. They went through Armadillo in the evening, drove too long, and camped when it was dusk. They were tired and dusty and hot. Grandma had convulsions from the heat. She was weak when they stopped. I'm going to drink a little bit of water. Okay. I'm going to pick right back up where I left off after I'm done reading this chapter. We're hitting that 30-minute mark. After that, I'm going to do another video of another 30 minutes, so don't worry. Tonight. The night owl stood a fierce rail and made a rigid pull on the truck, braced at both ends. The night was at nothing but pan biscuits, cold and hard, held over from breakfast. They flopped down on the mattresses and slept in their clothes. The Wilsons didn't even put up their tent. Joel and Wilsons were in flight about the panhandle, the rolling gray country, lined and cut with old flood scars. They were in flight out of Oklahoma and across Texas. The land turtles crawled through the dust, and the sun wiped the earth. In the evening, the heat went on out the sky, and the earth stayed up a wave of heat from itself. 2 days the families were in flight. On the 3rd, the land was too huge for them, and they settled into a new technique of living. The highway became their home, and movements their medium of expression. Little by little, they settled into a new life. Ruthie and Winefield first, then Al, then Connie and Rose of Sharon, and last the older ones. The land rolled like great stationary ground swells. Wildorado and Vega and Boyes and Glen Reno, that's the end of Texas. New Mexico and the mountains in the far distance waved up against the sky. The mountains stood, and the wheels of cars creaked across, and the engines were hot, and the steam spouted along the radiator caps. They crawled from the Pecos River and crossed at Santa Rosa, and they went on for 20 miles. Al Joel drove the touring car, and this is where I'm going to stop at page 172. I'm going to put this book down. Let's do a little conversation real quick. That was interesting. I finally understand what's happening now. So they were just basically giving a quick, a quick preview to what others go through along the Route 66 Oklahoma route going towards California. And that was just some random people. I don't know if we'll ever get those people actually with the main characters. Hopefully we do. But it's so funny that the cook was named Al, and one of our characters amongst this crew is named Al. So that's pretty funny to me. Anyways, that poor family. And fuck those truckers. Those truckers are assholes. Okay, just because you're truckers and you're doing, a job, I get it. It may be frustrating to see that you have to pay full tab to everything. Though, that family's not moochers. Those were starving kids and a family that was going somewhere that sounded nearly impossible with the resources that they even had on hand. So Al, God bless that cook, gave them bread. And I'm sure the truck drivers didn't care about the bread part. They were like, whatever. We can't buy bread. They can't buy bread. Nobody cares about that. What they did start caring about was when they started chopping the prices of the candy for the family. What was that? He said that was like a nickel, I think, for each of the lollipops. And she gave him 2 for a penny. That's a freaking steal. I can kind of get that they're upset about that, but at the same time, those are starving children. You guys are kind of shallow for saying they're getting upset about starving children getting a deal, basically. It's like, shoot, dude, what do you want them to freaking... Are they truck drivers driving a freaking truck and, making all this money to freaking put down $50 into their food? No, they can't even buy food. They're literally begging to be given food with this little amount of money. So fuck those drivers. Fuck those truck drivers. Fuck that big bitch, more like it. Fuck that dude especially. That guy, God bless his heart for sitting there and even having the humility to ask for this and to keep begging for it till his family was fed. So a lot of humiliation goes on in this type of life. When you're traveling and you're trying to bring your family to a new place, you got to put a lot of pride down and you have to sit there and keep moving. Even if you know what those truck drivers are going to do? They're going to pass up that family and they're probably going to clip them. Probably going to clip that family and be like, fuck your lollipops. The world's a fucked up place, and even though you may get the short end of the stick sometimes, the context behind why that stick is even being shortened may actually be worth having a shorter stick than somebody else at that time. And if you don't feel like that's right, then it's just part of the chaos that comes with this reality. But in this context, definitely be a lot more understanding and considerate of others' positions, because at the end of the day, they're getting paid to do this. That family's not getting paid to move over. They're surviving to attempt to get paid to thrive and even to barely survive where they're going. 1,000 miles to fucking Cali off a loaf of bread is impossible. They're gonna have to go do that a couple more times, and that was the last bit of his money, I think. I don't know. It said freaking dirty bills. So does that man have actual dollars? If it says bills, Anyways, Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Audience, YouTube, thank you for everything when it comes to pushing my existence out there to you. And with that, I will be smoking more in my bowl in the next episode, and I'm going to get started on that right now. So if you're here and you care and you want to keep going, click on to the next video, which should be in the playlist. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Bye bye.